a title yet, so it's not as focused in as I'd like it to be, but I'm not in the habit of making videos anymore or having conversations or any of that, and I didn't really think that I was going to until like 2 hours ago maybe. I thought, you know what, this could be a conversation wherein I could really learn more about myself, because I've been thinking about this for the past couple days, and that idea is expanding, and I'm kind of learning more about myself as I think about it. But I can definitely accelerate that process and also have a much more complete process by talking out loud. So I wanted to kind of explore this notion of media, art creation, and intake, I guess, and how it plays a role in my life, and just kind of where I'm at. I think a lot of these things that I've been mulling about in my brain for the past couple of days are so obvious, and so there's this theory part that I've known about for a long time, and when I realize that I've actually been putting into practice, that's when it gets complicated, because I haven't been thinking about me putting those things into practice to this degree, and yet I am, and then it becomes complex. So I think that I kind of started with reading, and I was thinking that, like, reading is something that I really enjoy, and I have been thirsty to do for a long time, and I feel like I almost have to give like a history of reading for me. But like, basically, as a youth, I read quite a lot, and I think that was because it was escape. I think that I've known that for a long time. Like, I was able to escape my lived experiences that were not necessarily great, and I also had like very little mobility or opportunity for control or exercising autonomy, and I was also in places that were incredibly boring, and at that stage I wasn't creating anything either. I didn't know that I had that within me. I wasn't doing a lot extracurricularly, didn't have siblings, so yeah, I think that reading was a hobby, it was an escape, it was entertainment, it was a lot of things, but I read a lot and had the capacity to do it. Also, just like, yeah, capacity with attention that I don't have now in the same way, due to a lot of different factors. The way that I use social media, smartphones, and also just anxiety levels and stuff like that. And when I entered university, reading kind of faded out because I had to do so much reading for school, and then more responsibilities, more autonomy, but more hard work, and a lot of other just priorities, and a lot more social, a lot more just invested all over the place. Friends, partner, band, school, work, all those things. And I've really wanted to get back into reading, and have been successful in doing that from time to time over the past like 7 years. It comes in spurts, and then there's times where there's opportunities that I just don't have the way that I want with consistency and stuff of being able to read. And I just realized, like, for years I'm just striving, just like, if I could just read a book, and I know that, like, that's also a symbol of safety. Me being able to sit down and read means that I'm not experiencing acute anxiety to the degree in which I have been the majority of time the past few months. And, you know, before that, there's definitely been periods of time, weeks that were worse than others and whatever, where that acute anxiety is there, and I don't have the time to do it because, like, to read, because I have to have conversations about how things can, whatever. I've needed to put that time and energy into other areas to deal with this acute anxiety and things that were happening, and trying to change the way that we interact with other humans. whatever. So I know that being able to sit and read does mean that I am in a safer place, or my perception is that I'm in a safer place where I don't have to deal with trying to problem solve these things to make my environment and or my perception of my own safety a place where I can achieve peace. So I have this just like strong desire to read. Yes, it is fun. I learn stuff about myself. I'm entertained, and also like whatever. It's just like one of those things that gives me multiple things through one activity, which is also a theme for me. But I also need to be calm enough to do it. I need to have little anxiety in order to engage in that activity, because other than the fact that I need the time to do it, I need the mental capacity to do it, because if things are not stable or settled enough, my mind wanders incredibly easy. Like reading is one of those things that can help me with anxiety if I can get into it. It's not the same as like I can go like physical detriments aside, like such as my knees. If I had the time to go for a mountain bike ride, I could just do that. I don't need to like mentally prepare for that really, or to play basketball or whatever, and that would be helpful because I'm using it, whatever. It's got a lot of things attached to that exercise. It's again, it's enjoyable and fun, and it's the same thing, but I'm like chemically doing some things. I'm moving my body. I'm accomplishing goals. Like I'm doing things for my physical health, mental, emotional health, all simultaneously. I don't really need to be in a certain mental state to engage that, because the activity itself is so active that I am able to push all the other things to the side. And if I'm not able to do that, then I can't do that activity because it's not going to go well. Whether it be mountain biking or basketball, one is a lot more dangerous than the other if I'm not attentive to my surroundings and the activity. But with reading, having that downtime, which I don't allow myself very much, to just like have no thoughts. Like I like stimulation because I don't want to have to like processing all these things. It's not in that way of like, I don't know how to explain it. Like I just don't give myself room to process all these things because a lot of the things that are happening feel very much out of my control. So it's like, hey, I'm going to be sad about a thing, or I'm going to be upset about a thing that I can't do anything about. What's the point? But like I need to find a way to process that, because otherwise I'm just listening to podcasts, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. But reading is one of those things that, because my body is still and my mind is trying to focus on one thing, it's not actively engaging my body with it. So all the stuff that I wasn't processing earlier, like thoughts, feelings, emotions, whatever, that either I've been avoiding or just haven't had time to, like I didn't know that I needed to process it in that way or whatever, that starts coming in while I'm trying to read. So it's a very delicate thing for me, and it's something that I have a strong desire to do, not just because of what it represents, as in, oh, if you're able to read, that means you're in a safer place, but also because it can benefit me in lots of ways. And I was thinking, though, that there must be a correlation between the life I am living right now and sorry, shaking my head at people doing suicide passes on the highway, so that's fun. The life that I've been living for a while, just like so much stress and, again, lack of autonomy and control, that you know, there's anxiety there, and like wanting to read is wanting to escape into another life. It's like I'm experiencing life I'm not experiencing, like, I don't know. I was trying to word it the other day, and this is so just like trying to focus it, but it's all here, and I don't know to start here and just keep it here, or to like do this and then that. I don't know. So I am experiencing. I've been trying to reframe not having a good time in life, trying to reframe unhappiness, or trying to reframe why these just how I've been feeling about these extreme events that have been going on. And I don't remember exactly, but I saw this reel, and it was talking about reframing these events and just talking about how these are experiences. You are having experiences, period, and you can just chalk them up to that. And it's like, okay, they're not like, but I like, instead of labeling them positive or negative or whatever, it's like you were just having experiences. So in doing that, I was thinking, like, I am having so much life experience right now that I can't, I don't have the time, or I don't have whatever the capacity to engage in living, in consuming someone else's life experiences. And the thing is, I'm having so much experience in life right now, so much so that I want to take a break from my own experiences. I want to be able to engage in someone else's life experiences and how they interpret life through their lens. And for me, that's what consuming media can be, especially reading, and just like how is this person is telling a story. I'm really tired of my own story right now, because I feel like I don't even have control over how it's going to go. I'm not even writing my own story right now. I'm so it just feels like my story is being written for me a lot of the time. And yeah, I have certain choices I can make, but it doesn't seem to have any impact for the choices that I feel like I could make, or that technically I could make this choice or I can make that choice, but it's so detrimental. Like the answer is obvious, but that doesn't mean that anything changes for the better. It's like, well, I can make a choice and make things worse, or I can make this choice that doesn't seem like a choice to just be where I'm at, but it doesn't necessarily mean things are getting better because of that. Anyway, so I want to read someone else's story and actively engage in that to escape my own that is happening right now. That's pretty obvious. Reading is also such a bigger commitment for me, because I don't read very fast, and it can take weeks, months, depending on the book, and other factors to get through, and I can be engaged in that story. And it's kind of like if you were watching a TV show that went on for a long time, and you're engaged in one story. And I prefer that. I prefer long format things. I prefer to be really, like, stories do engage me, which is, why I like certain types of media. So, and not having that be complete, but needing to, it's like I have a hard time with, like, if it's a book or a movie or like a TV show or something, if I go too long without engaging in it, it's not that I lose interest, it's that I need to start again sometimes because I don't remember what happened last or whatever, and I just like not in the story, and I need to get back into it, and it's not for lack of desire or because the content isn't good or whatever. So off the rails. But there's a desire to stay within it and keep the momentum, and that always be in the back of my mind of saying, oh, I can't wait to read that book later, I can't wait to continue watching that show, what happens next, is diverting attention from my own issues into that. Even when I'm not actively within the activity, I'm thinking about it because the story's that engaging, or it is that pleasant to be engaged in that activity. But the other thing is that for a long time, again, like, this is one of those things that for me for a long time I've known, is that when I consume media, it also gives me the tools to tell my own story. And it feels like those are the only two modes that I'm really in. And it's hard to do the living in the middle. So either I am consuming media, I am consuming and reflecting upon other people's stories, one for escapism, entertainment, education. Did I say reflection, which is kind of like the education piece? Well, no, there's like inner reflection. I don't even remember what I said. I'm not going to recap. Yeah, I will. What did I say? Entertainment, education, reflection. I feel like I'm missing one. Either way, giving me, I mean, it's kind of the reflection piece, but giving me tools, giving me content, giving me things that I could use in my own art, inspiration, influence, whatever you want to call it, so much. It's just one of those things that, like, you need to live life in order to create. And no matter what, I'm living life. But I find that my artwork can be influenced by other artwork so much because I am living by consuming. And it's not necessarily consuming product in the sense of like retail therapy and having a bunch of physical objects other than the physical objects of media that I have that are used for this purpose of, again, all these things I've mentioned: entertainment, reflection, education, you know, to assist with anxiety, whatever, like those mindfulness activities too. But there's like this in between. There's consuming, there's living, there's creating. And I consume for the purpose of creating. I'm like living by consuming other people's stories for one of the purposes of creating my own story. And the living without considering either of these things doesn't happen very much. So like me just, and that's where I've been for the past few months. And it's not a good thing because I haven't really been creating and I haven't really been consuming. And I'm labeling it as not a good thing because the majority of time what I'm doing is these two things, and this living part happens in there, but I'm in much more control of it. So it's like, imagine if I went on a trip, right? Like if I'm going on a road trip, that's a great opportunity for me to do some real living. And that life experience is the life experience that I am also using to create my story, to tell my story, to share, to connect. All those things happen. I have something to share, right? And the experiences that I've been having lately, I haven't been able to do anything with those experiences. I haven't been able to create enough work or be reflective upon my own experiences because I am so acutely in them still that I haven't really been able to do it. And a lot of my source material is like my lived experience is that main source material. But as I mentioned, consuming media gives me more in-depth language, layers of language to use to create and to share and connect over my primary source material, which is my life. I'm, using other stories to interpret my own and to not just interpret, but I mean, assess and to reassess and to sometimes create action and whatever. Like, it's just, I don't know, just like talking with a friend gives you at times insight into their life, which gives you insight into your own, because I feel it's like very naturally for me, I'm so, again, solipsistic that I believe everyone is to a degree. I mean, I don't, whatever. Then we get into things like altruism and how that doesn't exist. That I want to help my friend, I'm listening to my friend in this conversation or whatever, but I'm making comparisons to my own life automatically. And so even those stories, the story that my friend is telling me, the stories that that are happening there are still informing my life. And everything as an artist, I mean, this is one of those things that everything that you are taking in and consuming is going to reflect in your work somehow or another. It reflects there because you are expressing. And so even if you are doing something really mundane, or I don't know, like if you feel like that, and to me art is different than design, right? And that's, I'm not going to go into those details right now, but I just feel like no matter what you do, you are doing it under the influence of life and the experiences that you've had up to that point. 30 seconds ago is informing me right now, and 30 years ago is informing me right now. And it's not conscious a lot of the time. But anyway, I just think that, like, I was just reflecting on, I guess, how I want to go out of my way to, I don't know, it's so tough. I think that if things were really, really stable, then, like, how do I create those life experiences for myself? Because I have enough life experience sometimes, just like driving to the studio and spending the day creating there. I've got so many things that I want to express. Like, I don't feel like I run out of experiences to draw from because I'm living life every day, even if the majority of my energy, my physical and mental energy and time goes towards the act of creating. If that's what I was doing on a daily basis, I still feel like bookending the actual process of physically creating something, I have enough life on either end of that in order to inform the work and continue pushing and challenging myself to create said work. I don't feel like I don't have that, but I mean, I would like to, like, there's just been enough in life always that I don't feel the need to go out of my way, if you want to call it that, to have life experiences, which is why some people travel, right? And it's like, and that would be cool. I would like to do that. I would like things to be stable enough in my life that I could go out of my way to travel, to do the, and traveling is serving that purpose of, like, hearing and seeing other people's stories. And it's the same thing of just like consuming any other media for me, except it is so much more powerful. And it is very much like I am having a life experience out here on my own and creating a story there that I can reflect on, and then sometimes in the moment and sometimes much later kind of draw from and create work from. And I keep centering around creating work. I don't know how to get away from that. And I think I've felt the pain of not being able to create work and to just like being stuck in this middle ground. Like, again, if here is consuming art and here is creating art, or art and stories to be interchangeable right now, it's the living in the middle apart from both of these things that pains me. And I guess that's the realization I just came to, is like, because that type of living isn't the living that I want to do. Like, and I don't know, like, it's because of this. And I think that that's the thing, this living in just the process, but process of what? Because even though I want to focus so much more on process as an artist and in life, what is the outcome? There's always, like, I'm still thinking about outcomes so much of, like, this middle part is still attached to this part, and this part is attached to this part. Consuming art, consuming stories is still very attached to outcome, which, skipping the life in the middle part, the living life in the middle part, going to the outcome of expressing my own story, which can only be related to that middle part, as the living, as reflecting on the middle part being in the past, not the present. Like, I always want to be on either side of the present. Holy smokes. I always want to be in the past. Like, if my present is consuming art, it feels like I'm not living in the present. If I'm watching a movie, if I am reading a book, and that is what I'm doing, it actually feels like I'm not doing anything in my life in a good way. I am freezing that time. I'm using that time to, like, I don't know. Again, like, it's education and it's learning and it's all these positive things. So you would never say you're freezing time by being in school, in a class, or at work or whatever. But it doesn't feel like the present, as in, like, I am living life right now in the present. It feels like I am separating that because I am involved in someone else's story and someone else's art. And that can influence me creating my own art, which that doesn't feel like it is also, like, it doesn't feel present living. And maybe that, again, that's why these two things appeal to me so much, because it's incredibly stimulating. Whereas life in between consuming and creating doesn't feel like, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to make sense of it. What is it? What is, like, like, this isn't even it right now, because I'm creating right now. I'm figuring things out right now. But if I was just on the highway driving, all I'm doing is processing. Let's say no podcast. Let's even say no music. And that is why, like, you see all the memes like, oh man, this guy's raw dogging a flight right now. He's on a plane and he's doing it without a movie or a book or listening to anything. He's just on the plane for hours, just staring at the back of the seat in front of him and how bananas that is. And it's like, yeah, because I'm not the only person who's living in this state of high anxiety and stress and whatever else. And so, like, this part where I'm, like, just living right now, like, if I didn't have this other stimulation, if I'm not on the bookends of either consuming and or creating, I mean, what am I doing? I'm driving. Well, I know where I'm driving. I know why I'm driving. I can see the beauty of things, and that's why music is like, again, music is almost like reading to me. It's like I can be in and out of it. It doesn't stimulate enough in and of itself for me to, like, I can feel emotions, I can process my own stuff while I'm listening to music, and I can even help and assist in that. But, like, I can see what's around me, but I'm like, what am I processing? Like, ugh, that's a whole other issue. But it's just, yeah, I have a very difficult time with just living, because I don't know what it is. It's like I have to have an outcome. And the purpose of living is to create. Like, that's what it feels like to me. The purpose of living for me is to create. I am living and I am giving myself the experience in order to reflect on it and then express it in order to connect. It feels like that's the thing, and I don't even know if I can say it again. I'm living for the purpose of having experiences to reflect on, to then express, for the purpose of connection. And if I can't reframe things, and I don't know if I need to reframe that, but it feels like I have pressure to reframe life so that there isn't an outcome. Because it's like, for me, I mean, I want to be happy, but this part, these steps, that doesn't necessarily equal happiness. But I think it's purpose. And I think that purpose, again, part of that purpose for connection is because I feel so alien. And there's that legacy piece in there too, that even if I'm not in the moment connecting with someone, having a conversation and realizing, oh, I'm not alone, whatever, I can leave this behind with confidence that someone else feels the way that I feel, and I'm going to tell myself that simultaneously I'm an individual and I'm unique and I'm special, and look, like, you know, not necessarily look at me, but like the fact that I think everyone is that thing, or no, I get into the weeds. I'm like trying to, like, I'm getting to, like, focused and narrowing it down, and I think it was like I put too many, I ruined the piece. Like, I had it, and I could have stopped, and then I pushed it too far, and now I gotta fix it. I don't even remember where I was. Connection, legacy, people being the same. I don't believe. I don't know what I believe. I believe that there are a lot of people that are not individuals, or they're not acting as unique individuals that they could be, and that it's a choice. And sometimes maybe it's not a choice at all. Either way, I want to believe that I am unique and my own person, and that I make choices, and that I have abilities and strengths, weaknesses, vulnerabilities that are unique to me, as in the combination of all those things makes me an individual. And all those things taken up into parts, other people can relate to in parts, but no one else has lived my life. So the way that I express myself is an accumulation of all those experiences that are that even though some people may have had the exact same experience in theory, it's definitely not in practice, and thus that is a separation between us, which I can't ignore. But I simultaneously, again, like I enjoy that I am not a carbon copy of other people. That feels like it gives me purpose. But at the same time, I need to be able to connect with people and not feel as alone, because that is unsafe and feels scary. A little tidbit I remembered after I stopped recording, just again reflecting on my own media usage and stuff, and I noticed that some of this has to do with accessibility to like music streaming service such as Tidal that I've been using for a couple months now, and being able to just listen to so many different things and having all this access, and like for so long. I think the majority of music that I own physical copies of, and the majority of music that or like artists that I follow, are metal. But the majority of what I've been listening to for the past, I don't know how many years, has not been metal. And I think that part of that has to do with the fact that the more anxious states that I'm in, and this goes back to like consuming and creating, and this is where one of those things diverge, is that when I think about the music that I've created, and it's been metal. Those have been the projects that I've been involved in prior, and even though I've had desire maybe to do some other things, that is still like my creation aspect has been in that area, in that genre that lends itself to what I'm trying to express and how I want to express it. And I think I was also consuming more of it in that time too. But the living part that was happening was much more stable, even though it's still not whatever, just reflecting on past. But the past, how many years now, especially the last like 5-ish, have been a lot more unstable, a lot more long periods with extreme acute anxiety. That like metal is challenging, and part of the consumption of media can also be for dopamine release. And the thing is that like if I'm seeking things like immediate gratification, metal's not going to give it to me. It's rare that it does that, which is why my listening habits have been, even when I'm going back to metal that's familiar to me, it's not giving me what I need in that moment, and that's just like dopamine. Because for me, as much as I love metal and heavy music, it is more challenging, and a lot of it, especially albums that I love and whatever, it becomes not about just singles, it's about a piece of work. It is about a whole. Even if it's not a concept album, there's albums that I like to experience as a whole, or to shuffle a whole artist, but again, it's about the whole of that artist then. And what I've been listening to for months, for more than one reason, but I think one is dopamine seeking, are these oldies. Like, so I've got a playlist that I've been making. I think it's got like 730 songs on it now, ranging from the 50s to the 2000s. I think the bulk of it is like 70s and 80s. There's a few 50s and 60s songs. There's a bunch of 90s and 2000s songs there as well. But it's like, these are familiar, they're nostalgic, but they're also, a lot of them are like one-hit wonders. Not all of them, but a lot of these songs are on there that they're just like, yeah, because it's just like, it's a pop hit, and that's what it is, and that's all that it is. And I kind of was reflecting on this because yesterday I was introduced to Tommy Richmond, is how I'm going to say his name. And it's just like, I'm calling it new R&B, or like NURB, N-U, as in how you would use the expression new metal. It's not about the fact that it's contemporary in the new of N-E-W, because we're reflecting on new metal as a genre, and that can still be, geez, like 20 years old, you know what I mean? 25 years old. New metal started around then, let's say 99. And it's not about idiot drivers, my goodness. It's whatever. Anyway, the point is, even just like, if you think about modern art, it is art that is concerned with modernity, and some of that art has happened decades ago, right? We're not talking about contemporary, which, anyway, it's loaded. Loaded stuff, tangents. Tommy Richmond. This is also why I was thinking of it. It's not just nostalgia and going back to something familiar and comfort that eases my anxiety. It's also like, man, these are just like pop songs. They're like this new R&B. That was a tangent I got off on. NURB, N-U-R-B. Of like, it's not just like, this, like, this is new music to me, N-E-W, new to me. And some of it just mad hooks and melodies, and just like, it is just the most like constructed pop song that's just, it's sugar. And that's a dopamine hit. Like, that music for me right now is a dopamine hit. And it doesn't have a lot of depth to it, lyrically, conceptually, but that's not what my body is needing right now. Otherwise, yeah, I don't have the attention span, I don't have the heart right now to listen to things that I did before that were challenging me. Right now, listening is for an escape too. Just like reading, I can't handle reading. Like I was trying to read back in like December and January, the Odyssey. I can't stick in it. I can't see it through. I'm getting stuck because even consuming that media, it's too challenging for me in the state that I'm in. So even musically, it's like I was trying to listen to Mastodon the other day, which I enjoy. I love Mastodon, and I just like couldn't get. I'm like, I love this song, and it's not doing anything for me right now. It's challenging me when I don't have the capacity to be challenged, and it's not comforting enough, and it's not, and even though it was familiar, it wasn't giving me that. Whereas like I found Tommy Richmond, and then that's all I've been listening to since yesterday, and exploring new R&B. And so that's just another thing I've noticed about my media consumption, and how that changes, and how it's reflecting my state of being, which makes complete sense. I mean, if you think about it very simply, like, I'm not in the mood for a horror movie right now. I kind of need a comedy right now, or I'm feeling kind of sad and I need to cry, or I'm feeling kind of sad and I don't want to cry. And you choose music-based or movies. I guess Freudian slip because it applies there too, but you would choose, movies based on your mood a lot of the time. Like, yeah, I love psychological thrillers. Am I in the mood for one right now? Maybe, because it would actually focus me, which I've talked about before. Like, it would give my anxiety a singular focus. But it also might make me more anxious in a way that I'm too far over my threshold And I actually need something that's kind of silly and that doesn't have that conceptual depth. I don't have the capacity to think about those layers in concepts because I'm living them much too acutely right now.